Excellent. So for this afternoon's program, what I saw on what I'm supposed to do is supposed to be talk, Q&A, and then I'll do a break for 10 minutes, and then we can do the metta meditation. Does that make sense? It does. Oh, that's boring. No, that's good. So, just for the talk, remember this is coming close to the end of the meditation retreat, but, in my life, there's always another retreat somewhere soon. And for me, it's always retreats, just about. You do a retreat here or conference there, and another retreat, another conference and talks. It does actually keep your mind, on the Dhamma all the time. And just being able to keep reminding yourself of the Dhamma is very helpful. It means that whenever there's any problems in your life, what's the solution? The Dhamma there somewhere to understand what's going on and why it's going on. Just if you haven't heard, at lunchtime, that I was eating my lunch in the main cafe there, I have to finish before noon. So I usually go in there a bit earlier. And as I was eating, just some allergy somewhere, and a lot of phlegm came out of my mouth. So I had to stop eating. And it was one of the most delicious meals I was offered, and I couldn't eat it. It was so sad. And for you, it's easy because you have another meal in the afternoon or in the evening. I have to wait until tomorrow now. That's why I always see this here as carrying some spare. I'm not sure if I told you, but because I'm going through the customs and immigration in Hong Kong this afternoon, once when I was going through the customs in, I forget which airport it was in the United States, but they looked at me and they said, "What have you got under your robe?" And they said, no, they were serious. So you can't make jokes at these officials in the United States, but they can make jokes at you. So they said, "It's not a suicide belt under there, is it?" And I replied, no, it's just fat. And he said the same thing. It's a suicide belt. No, it's not. But anyhow, also, even in Perth, when they were checking my bags in Perth, they asked me, have you got any liquids in your bag? I said, no, this is my travel bag. So when I go, this is all I check in. That's it. Life is so easy when you've got nothing. So anyway, that's why they thought they had something under here. But anyway, they asked, the guy said, have you got any toothpaste? And I showed him the toothpaste, okay. Any hair gel? and and that's when I looked at him, and he saw the funny side too. And we both laughed. He said, okay, go through. Sometimes having a sense of humor, being able to laugh, really helps in so many occasions, so many times. And the people you're with, they may be officials, but they're human beings too, and they like some laughter. Even all the people you're with when you're teaching a retreat, it makes you feel good. And people want to come to the talks. If the talks were just suttas, dry Dhamma, have you ever been to those talks? Not by me. But that's one of the reasons why people turn away from things like Buddhism. It's not so engaging. It's too dry. And even if it is too hard to understand, nevertheless, we make it a little bit funny and say, you will understand eventually. Just that idea of brainwashing, of me teaching, brainwashing is very good sometimes. You're all brainwashed at school. You're all brainwashed. That's actually where you can find out why people think different things in Hong Kong. Some of you are brainwashed in American schools, English schools, in Hong Kong schools and Singapore schools. So where did you come from? Are you really Chinese? I remember just seeing this one of the first times I came here to Hong Kong, seeing this. She was a Chinese girl. But when I started talking to her, this was in a dana at somebody's home, she started talking in a Northern Ireland accent. Nothing like you talk. And when I heard her, it was just so charming to see, the first person I knew who was, a Hong Kongi, Cantonese, but she's talked in a really thick Irish accent. And I asked her, "Well, how come you can talk in an Irish accent?" And she did say that her father migrated to Belfast. She was perfectly safe because when people asked her during the Troubles there, "Are you Protestant or Catholic?" she said, "No, I'm Buddhist." Oh, because they didn't know what to do. But that's where she had a wonderful sense of humor, as many people do. They asked, "What was your father's occupation?" He said, "There was only one of two choices, running a laundry or running a restaurant." He ran a restaurant. And I still remember over in Cambridge that there was late at night as a student, if you wanted something to eat, there was this Chinese shop just about 5 minutes walk away from my college, and they served a wonderful, even like fish and chips. They served everything, but really late at night. Do you remember that one? Okay. Yeah, very close. That's why it's convenient. So thank you for migrating overseas. And out of gratitude for that person who ran that restaurant, that's why I keep coming here. To be able to serve and help. But anyway, like the gratitude, just many of you, especially just before I had my lunch, the organizers of BIF, who put in so much work making this happen, they wanted to ask forgiveness. This happens to me very often when you try and do a forgiveness ceremony. But honestly, I've known you for so many years now. I just can't do that for you. I can't see you do anything wrong at all. And if you do make any mistakes, I think that doesn't need forgiveness. It's already forgiven. Making mistakes is part of life, and it doesn't demean you. It doesn't destroy relationships. It actually teaches you how they can grow. And the story behind that was, again, I was understanding when I became a school teacher for 1 year. That's actually how the reason I became a school teacher is my father has passed away by now. She knew I was going to become a monk, but she said, "Well, if it doesn't work out as a monk, you have to have some proper job." So I had a proper job for a year. And that made Mum very happy. So she happily let me go off to Thailand to become a monk. But nevertheless, that when I was a school teacher, I learned so much, from not just teaching, but also learning just so many truths about life. What happens if, you don't do well at school? What happens if you become bottom of the class? And I was always what I think is a kind, compassionate person, even before I was a monk. So when I was giving out the results to my class after the year-end exams, I was giving out the results, and I gave the result out to this one boy. He'd come bottom of the class. And of course, when you've done your exams, has that ever happened to you? If it has, you give out the results, and this poor boy came bottom of the class. He saw that, and you can see he got instant depression. His shoulders drooped, his head slumped, and you didn't need to be a meditator to read his mind. He was getting really, really upset, thinking what the other children in the class would say about him. You're a dummy, you're stupid. And that was nothing what he feared he was going to get from his parents the next day when they found out. Right, no more going out anywhere. You have to stay at home. You have to increase your marks. Next time, I don't want to see you. We're embarrassed that our son comes bottom of the class. And that poor little boy, you could see him getting more and more depressed. And so I decided I can't allow this to get worse. So I went up to him and I said, "Congratulations." They all knew I was a Buddhist by this time. And I even taught meditation in the assembly. And when I told him, he said, "Congratulations." I went, "What do you mean, congratulations?" I taught him about the Buddha's concept of the Bodhisattva. Okay, I was terrified. I was stretching things a bit, but the Bodhisattva is a person who sacrifices their own happiness and well-being so their friends and loved ones don't have to suffer. And I said, I know you are much smarter than this, and I reckon, I'm pretty convinced that you've deliberately come bottom of the class this year. You intended to come bottom, and you did that so that none of your friends and colleagues in this classroom will have to suffer what you're going to get tonight from your parents. You're the Bodhisattva. And I said, after the class is finished, I'm going to go to the principal's office and I'm going to recommend you for the Bodhisattva of the Year award in this school. He knew what I was talking about, but he looked at me as if I was the stupidest teacher he'd ever had in his life, congratulating him for coming bottom. But nevertheless, he laughed, and I smiled, and basically took him out of the worst of his depression. And that was the whole purpose of it. Okay, you come bottom of the class once. You don't need to feel suicidal or depressed about that. So anyway, he got over it, and he also laughed at it, and it was a nice teaching for everybody. I shared it with others afterwards. Just because you can't become bottom of the class never means that you're going to be unsuccessful in life. When I said to people about all those famous people who got kicked out of university, I remember once reading the first pages of the biography of Richard Branson, and he could never do maths. He became this very, very, very wealthy, successful businessman, but he couldn't add up. And I thought, that's wonderful. That was the reason I never became a businessman, because I could add up. And there's this other kid. This was from the year before. I was mostly teaching maths, as you know, when I tell those funny stories, 26 sheep in the field. Here's another one for you. What is it? 30 cows in a field. 30 cows. Moo, moo. 30 cows in a field, 28 chickens. How many didn't? That's a logical question. 30 cows in a field, 28 chickens. How many didn't? The answer must be 10. 30 of those cows ate, ATE, chickens. That's why I kind of like stories like that. They make you think outside of the box, see outside of the box. So, some of that's called insight. You got it now? 20 those are behind you. So, anyway, this kid had come bottom of the class the year before. And I always wondered, does that mean you can't do maths? How many of you haven't had a good meditation so far? No, come and be honest. If you haven't, just put your hand up. It's amazing how people are embarrassed. Okay, fair enough. What is it? Good? Bad? No good or bad. Now, who said it? I said good, bad. Who knows? But sometimes people feel embarrassed. And that's why the 4 or 5 of you put your hand up. Well done. At least you're being honest and you're not being afraid to let other people know. Just like this kid who became bottom of the class the year before and he thought he couldn't do maths. So I decided deliberately at the start of the year to do an experiment. Yes, I am kind of rebellious, but I always want to find out if these things work or not. My ideas are just crazy or just legitimate. So I just gave him extra encouragement. 30 kids in the class, and this kid I really helped. When you're walking down the gaps between the desks, I'd always stop at his desk. Do you understand that? And he said, no, sir. I said, look, this is, oh, yeah, I get it. I couldn't do that to every kid in the class, just to him. And at the end of the class, I'd ask him, was that okay? Could you understand that? I gave him extra attention. Because I just wanted to see whether he was really incompetent in maths or whether he was actually smart, but just thought he was bad. And then after a while, just, when you get the end of the year exams, and I just couldn't believe this. This is why I share this story with you. When I did the exams at the end of the year, he came top. He couldn't believe it, but it proved to me something. There is nobody who can't succeed. So all of you 3 or 4 people who said you haven't got a good meditation yet, it doesn't mean you can't meditate. It just means you have to be more patient, and it will work. And that's a wonderful thing when I see people teaching meditation for years and years and years. And they're so kind, they're so good, they keep precepts, they're gentle, they serve, they help. Just wonderful human beings. And I thought, one of these days, they're going to really get it. A really big meditation, not just nimittas, but the whole works, jhanas and psychic powers and everything. Do you believe in psychic powers? Have you seen me exhibit psychic powers? Which psychic powers have you seen me? I'm going to practice a psychic power later on this evening. It's called levitation in Singapore Airlines. No, when Ajahn Chah passed away, then at his funeral service, he was very well known by this time, they had TV cameras. And the TV cameras were interviewing some of the senior monks and also one of the senior lay people on their committee and asking that they weren't prepared for this interview. And they just asked them, look, have you ever witnessed yourself, Ajahn Chah, do a psychic power? And all the monks were silent. No one said anything. And then the layperson spoke up. He said, yes. And I asked him, are you interested? You are? Okay, so what psychic power was it? And the layperson said, he taught the Dhamma. And if ever any of you pay attention at the Buddhist Studies course in Hong Kong University, you'll see that that is legitimate psychic power taught by the Buddha. You can teach the Dhamma and many people listen. And the Buddha said that's the only psychic power he recommends. And afterwards, all those monks thought, I wish I'd have thought of that. Anyhow, so you see me do psychic power. I've taught. But people aren't excited about that, are they? They want the stuff with the flames and doing possible. Ajahn Brahm, we lock the door. Can you go through it? And the trouble is that, well, now, first of all, that individually we'll never say about psychic powers. And I will never tell about a psychic power of a monk or a nun who is still alive. It's only when they pass away. So I've already mentioned that one monk, Venerable Sudamo, because he's passed away. I don't mind sharing some of those stories. And one of those stories is there was a friend of mine, and she was married to a Westerner who went to the same school as me, as a Latimer over in Hammersmith. You know, there was somebody else, I only found this last year, who went to the same primary school as I did, which was Derwentwater Primary School, and went to the same high school as I did, Latimer. And he became really quite famous. He was 4 years ahead of me, but he was an actor, Alan Rickman, otherwise known as Professor Snape. And I think I know the teacher who he based the character on. Because you've got to get some ideas from somewhere about scary teachers. And that was, I don't mind saying this, Mr. Jones. He was a disciplinarian at the school. But you know, it was okay being Ajahn Brahm, or Peter as I was called then, because one day, I'm sharing all these stories, I don't know if I should, it has got nothing much to do with meditation, but maybe it has something to do with just the character and how to succeed in the world. So one day, my father had the afternoon off work. This was primary school. And so I would eat at home. It's only a short walk away from the school. And he said to me, oh, it's such a shame that you're at school this afternoon. Someone's given me these 2 tickets for a World Cup qualifier soccer match. Please excuse me, it was between England and Poland. And I said, oh, I'd love to go. Well, you can't go, you're at school. So I said, I'll ask my teacher. And the teacher was Mr. Jones. And, you know, people were afraid of him. It was scary. And then I went up to him and asked him, please, sir, my father's got 2 tickets for a soccer match this afternoon. Can I go? And I think he was so stunned I would ask him. He said, yeah, okay. And he had permission. And the hardest part was then convincing my father I had permission. So he went to see the soccer match. And all the kids in my class, how on earth did you do that? That was a psychic power. Or even more than that. Uh, Recently, I went to Sydney to help a monastery over there, and I saw some of the people I hadn't seen for years because I hadn't been going to Sydney for a while. We have other monks and nuns over there, and I can't be everywhere. So told, uh, I met so many people I haven't met for years. And one of the people I met there, I taught her meditation when she was young. And when she was got married and then started a business, she started a business in like a clothing business. And it's very difficult. There's so much competition in a place like Sydney. But then one of her products was picked up by a big company over in London. And so she told me she couldn't come to my talk that night because she had to get the first ticket she could possibly book to go to London to meet the director and negotiate the contract. And she had a little girl called Holly, and I gave her the Buddhist name Surya. Surya, yeah. And she was so tiny. But even in Sydney recently, I saw her, and she was one of these people who said, "Do you remember me?" And that she's about 3 or 4 years of age when I saw her. And now I don't know how many, maybe late 20s or 30s. And then you just picked her up straight away. I mean, not physically. You knew her. You're Surya, aren't you? Yeah. Sometimes her real name is Holly. That's a Buddhist name. And she was very pleased that I could recognize her. But her mum was there as well. And the reason I'm telling this story because how her mother used meditation. Imagine, you have to leave your little daughter, and that's hard enough to do when she was so young. But she had a very good partner, husband, who looked after the daughter while she was away. And she flew to UK, really long flight from Sydney to London. It's like literally is the other side of the world. And when she got to London, she didn't have time to take a rest. It was book into the first hotel she could find, shower, change her clothes, and go to the office of this big company. And as soon as she got into the boardroom, the other directors were there, not the CEO yet. And the directors, she announced who she was. The directors recognized her name and straight away told her, "You're wasting your time. The only thing you can do is go back to your hotel, take your rest, and get the next flight back to Sydney." The CEO is in no position to sign your contract. He's in a terrible mood. He's in a filthy mood. Just leave. But she wouldn't. The one thing which I taught her is be rebellious. Stand your ground. And so she said, "No, I've come all this way. If he's going to be mad at me, at least I can see him face to face." "Suit yourself," they said. So she went into a corner of the boardroom, sat down, crossed her legs, and did meditation. Her meditation was metta meditation, loving kindness. So she closed her eyes and sat peacefully, maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes. And then when the CEO came in, "Who's that? What does she think she's doing in my boardroom?" And so she opened her eyes, stood up. She was not intimidated at all. And she never gave intimidation back to the managing manager or the CEO, whatever it's called. She walked right up to him. Because one of the things with meditation, if it's successful, you're fearless. And looked him right in the eyes and said, "You've got such beautiful blue eyes, like my baby Holly back in Sydney." Holly was Surya, that was her real name. That's not what the CEO expected. He's like brain fused. And he was silent. The word I usually use is discombobulated. Discombobulated means it's all over the place. You're just so confused, you don't know what's going on. It's just one of my favorite words. So if you want to impress somebody about your knowledge of English, discombobulated. It's a nice word. You got such beautiful blue eyes, like my baby Holly back in Sydney. And then his face melted. He smiled and said, "Have I? Really?" "Oh, you came here to sign your contract. Have you got it?" "Of course you had." "Okay. Got a pen?" And they signed it right there. And then he went out to do something else. And she tried to get out of the boardroom to actually take a rest. Back to a hotel to catch up. She was jet lagged, tired, everything. But then she told me the directors of that company would not let her get out of the boardroom. She said they surrounded me. And they said, "We're not letting you go until you tell us how the heck you did that." That was like impossible. So those are the psychic powers which you can use in your business. If you've got a boss and you need to get a contract signed or something, you just go up to him and say, "You've just got such beautiful brown eyes. Like my teacher, Ajahn Brahm." He probably will throw you out of the boardroom. But that was just a beautiful act of kindness, spontaneous. She couldn't plan that. Because she was peaceful and calm, it just came out. And I kind of love those spontaneous responses to difficulties and problems in life. What you're doing, you're not thinking about it. That's what fear does. Makes you think, what should I do? What should I do? How can I get this achieved? It's right in this moment, connecting with another person, and intuitively you know what to do. I've seen that happen so many times using that intuition. So these are the benefits of loving kindness meditation. It's also it's also just great for all other types of business or passing exams or doing interviews. I mean, many of you probably don't need to do exams anymore. You're way too old. But you have to go interviews and see bosses. They want to know exactly who are you, what you can do. And the ability to respond, to questions which you don't expect. The ability to be peaceful, to be kind. Many people tell me nowadays that if you put on your CV that you're a meditator, it's not a negative at all. At least people know now that if you're a meditator, you actually usually have less stress. Usually what happens, if they say you're a meditator, they hire you, and in your spare time they want you to teach them how to lessen the stress in the office. It actually works. Because when people meditate, especially meditate together, there is a sense of like harmony there, a lack of fear. Where do all the arguments and difficulties in doing things come from? They're all good people, but sometimes we feel challenged. Mostly because we're tired, we're exhausted. And that's one of the biggest problems in the whole world. People don't know how to sleep. And they think they have to sleep at a certain time. I didn't sleep well last night. I think it must have been something to do with, having a bit of an allergy today to my lunch. But then after lunch, because I couldn't talk to you too long, there's always a benefit to that. I could go and have a rest early after lunch. And then you see all your energies come back again. And I can tell stupid stories again, sometimes sometimes called jokes. I'm just trying to quickly think of one now. No, I can't think of one right now. Oh, you're disappointed because I'm supposed to be a Dhamma talk. Although I do remember that this is not like a made-up joke. When I was in Melbourne teaching at the Buddhist Society of Victoria, there afterwards, this guy came up to me and he says, I was amazed at your jokes. At that time, many of them were new material. And he said, your delivery, your timing was perfect. And he offered me a job. He did. I'm not making this up. He worked in the Melbourne Comedy Club, which was the place in Melbourne, actually in the whole of Australia, where people get their breaks when they learn just the fundamentals of being a stand-up comedian. And he was already working on the TV, and so he said, I think you'll do really well. So I was legitimately offered another job. But I thought, no, I'll keep my day job, a night job, an every time job as a monk. It's much better. But I was very happy to be praised that way. And this is one of the things which I've seen. I already told the BIF committee, just you don't need to have forgiveness ceremony. How about having a praising ceremony? All the wonderful things which you've done. And focus on that rather than any faults. When you're a couple together, instead of telling everybody, your husband, your wife, all the terrible things they've done in the past year, you should ask forgiveness for that. Instead, all the wonderful things you've done. Have a not forgiveness ceremony, but a gratitude ceremony. Because we have so much negativity in our world already. And even forgiveness is supposed to allow us to move on from our mistakes. A lot of the time it's, yes, you admit it at last. It's about time you admit it. You're a hopeless member of the BF committee. Why didn't you admit that before? That's not what forgiveness is supposed to do. But if it's gratitude and praise ceremony, you tell the people which you like, you live with, you work with, say thank you so much, for all the wonderful things you've done. You don't always do wonderful things, but nevertheless, you're a really good person. So thank you for being a friend. When you have those type of ceremonies, gratitude ceremonies, imagine how that feels. People care for you, they love you, and they're telling you all the wonderful things you do for them. Little gratitude ceremonies means so much more. So at the end of this retreat, can you have gratitude for yourself? All the wonderful things which you've done. And even though many of you were tired, you still managed to come in, sit down and meditate. Be grateful to your body. The body sometimes is sick, like I experienced today. It's all gone now. But nevertheless, you're grateful for this body. It behaved enough. I always see the positive side in things. Because, I couldn't eat my lunch, it meant I could get thinner, lose a bit of weight. You should do this every time I come to Hong Kong. It's totally unintended. I always see the positive side in everything. That's why I did write this story in one of those books about this. That can't be the right time. Oh, it's okay. Thank you, clock. Sorry for trying to. I think sometimes when I get angry at my clock, because I haven't got enough time to answer all the questions or finish the talk, I think that's why the clock misbehaves sometimes. Thank you, clock. Thank you for telling me the time. It's one of the sayings which I said, I think many other people have picked up on this. Instead of criticizing people, how about praising them? Flattery gets you everywhere. Is that true? Thank you for being a nun. How does that feel? Sorry? Yeah, no, it's more than that. It's really hard to be a nun in this world in Hong Kong. Well done. Yay. So okay. What that does is you feel good being a nun. So you carry on. If people keep criticizing you, oh, she's a lazy nun, she doesn't give any talks, she doesn't. How does that feel? You say, oh, these monks don't appreciate me. That negativity can force you out of the robes. But being a nun and being a happy nun and seeing everybody clap for you, that's not just good for you, it means other people here would also like to become nuns. But not Gerald, please. You become monk. You become monk. Yeah, a very good nun. So that flattery gets you everywhere. So why don't sometimes your partners, your friends, you just take them out for a cup of coffee or for lunch or for dinner. And so why? What special day is it today? It's like gratitude day. I just want to say thank you for, bearing with me for all these years, for putting up with all my stupid comments, for no, you don't say things like that. You point out people's good points, and when that happens, those good points grow. I never went further in that. It was here that story of this, the head of the schizophrenia unit over in Singapore. I told that story, I think, yesterday. And the head of the Singaporean mental health department's schizophrenia unit, when I asked him, how do you treat schizophrenia in Singapore? He gave me this wonderful answer. He doesn't treat schizophrenia in Singapore. He treats the other part of the patient, which is not schizophrenic. And I saw that, I understood that so well because that's how I teach murderers and rapists, people in jail who've done terrible, terrible crimes. I don't teach the rapist, I teach the person. And I hope you know this story because I love telling it. One of the meditation retreats which I taught over in Jhana Grove, there was a problem. The problem was it was the husband of the woman who usually cooked for us on the retreats. The husband got a cancer. So the lady had to his wife had to look after the husband, 24/7 for a while. So she couldn't do the cooking on our retreat. So at the last minute, I had to find another cook from somewhere. And I looked and looked and looked. I finally found one. And he was such a brilliant cook. His name was Carl. He was an Australian, big guy. And I've never in all my life, seen someone work so hard to cook for us. And one of the things he cooked for me, for everybody, was many pizzas. He didn't just get it out of a package and put it in the microwave. He made the whole thing, from the flour and the base and baking it and putting all this stuff on top, as well as other food for people who wanted different things to eat. He worked so hard, and his cooking was so good. And at the end of the retreat, the retreatants, now we always have this meeting to thank everybody, and they said, "Where's Carl gone? We want to thank him. His cooking was amazing. He was such a lovely person to work with because he needed some help chopping up the vegetables. Where's he gone?" And then I told all the retreatants. There were maybe there's only 60 retreatants, maybe about 40 women, 20 men. Usually that's the average. And I said, Carl is now back in prison. He was on work release, a way to introduce people who have been in jail a long time back into the world. What had he done? He'd raped. And as soon as I said that, just like here, everyone was so quiet and silent. They never expected this wonderful guy who was so generous with his time and his kindness that he had raped somebody. And then I explained, I've seen him many times at Karnak Prison Farm where I visited. I trusted him 100%. He'd only raped when he was drunk or on drugs. He's gone past that now. He won't ever do any harm to anybody. And because I knew him from visiting jail, I was the one who arranged for him actually to come on work release to our monastery to cook. And one of the great teachings of that, why do we judge people? Just because you do that terrible crime once does not mean that you're a rapist. Stupid person who regrets that for his whole life, and he's totally safe and not putting any person in danger, and he lived up to my trust. So that changed 60 people's idea about people who do such terrible hurt to others, that they can rehabilitate if you let them be rehabilitated. There's always a little bit of a gamble there, but the gamble was just so small. Now, he's gone past his sentence as many years ago. He got married to a Filipino girl and have a wonderful relationship together. And he often visits the monastery and says that was the stupid time of his life. He was big, either drunk or on drugs, didn't know really what he was doing and the consequences. Should you have a life sentence forever? You're a rapist and bear that label for the rest of your life? Or is there such a thing as acknowledging your mistakes, really acknowledging them, learning from them, and never doing them ever again? And that's what he did. So I love that event and just how shocked people were, but how they learned so much from something which was real. I remember this serial killer once. The serial killer, his teacher actually ordained him as a bhikkhu. Was that really bad? That serial killer, his name was Angulimala. His teacher was the Buddha. That's the example I was following. The Buddha did that. You trust somebody, and it's amazing just how they live up to that trust which you give them. If you're always afraid of them, they live up to that fear. That's why I always like trust. And I've hardly ever been disappointed or had that trust abused. And I'm getting old now. Sorry, I am old now. So these are sorts of things which you don't just teach people, you learn. And even on meditation retreats, You all know that story of the two bad bricks. I don't know, I told so many stories here, but many of the monks still go visiting this prison called Carnet Prison Farm, close to our monastery. And this, because they go visiting regularly, there's one person there who's in jail at the end of his sentence for murder. And somehow or other, he found my book, Opening the Door of Your Heart, in that jail. And now he goes around saying, two bad bricks. It was only two people I murdered, just two murders, that's all. Now, you may think that's going to an extreme. At first, I laughed too. But that means that person doesn't have to do three murders. He's not a murderer, he's a person who's done two murders. That doesn't make you a murderer. Someone who has done that, but will probably never ever do that again. I must, without praising myself over much, that I got one of my best phone calls ever. Okay, it's good. It's okay. The time's okay. Because I was kind to my clock. My clock is now going slow. That one of my favorite telephone calls was this gentleman called me. He was a senior officer in one of the prisons, not the one next door to our monastery, Carnet, but a senior prison for very heavy offenders, a high security prison. And he said he wanted to talk to me. I said, yeah, how can I help? You know what I usually say as a monk, and I think I'll say this to you if you call me, I usually say, how can I be of service? That's just the way I speak now. Not what you can do for me. I'm a monk. What can I do for you? How can I be of service? I kind of like that way of receiving of answering phone calls. And he said, yes, thank you, Ajahn Brahm. He said he'd been in the prison service all his life. He was about to retire. And just before you retire, you look back on your career and know what you can do to help, to serve more. And he said, you used to come to some of the prisons where I was a prison officer, and I noticed something unique about all the people who came to your class. I asked, what was that? He said, every prisoner, this is what he said, every prisoner who came to your classes, once they were released, never ever came back again. Recidivism, zero. And I trusted him. And he said, can you please come back again to my prison to teach meditation or teach anything? I don't care. Because you're actually doing something for the prisoners. And when I thought about that, what the heck have I done? And the only thing which I could think of was when I went into jail, I never ever saw a prisoner. All I saw was a person who was temporarily, maybe 10, 20, 30 years, but temporarily in prison. All those years, I never saw a murderer, a thief, a rapist, a terrorist, a fraudster. I don't know all the rest of the details people do to get into jail. I never saw anybody like that. I saw a human being, a person. That's the same as the reason why that Tibetan nun who's about to die put on that notice in front of her door. Absolutely no visitors except Ajahn Brahm. And it was because I never saw a sick person dying. I saw a person there. And I talked to her as though I'd talk to Freddie. You're going to die one day, Freddie. But I'm not going to talk about your illnesses or lack of them. You talk to Freddie. You talk to Ajahn Brahm. Like when you saw me a bit sort of sick at lunchtime. I think you know me well enough. I'm not going to die now. It's only just a bit of allergic reaction to whatever I was eating. So please, if I am going to die, I will let you know beforehand. People know I'm going to die, but the last thing they want me to do is to die when I'm eating the meal which they're sponsoring. Somebody else's meal, okay. We're not quite okay, but so this is why that not judging people. When you learn not to judge people, you get so much more accepting and life becomes so much more beautiful. Mr. Trump, are you going to judge him? He will surprise you. When I judge someone, they always surprise me. They're usually much worse than I expected. No, I might stop talking about poor Mr. Trump. But even though I'm a monk, sometimes I get it very, very, very wrong. Still remember this gentleman who came on one of my meditation retreats. It was during the summertime. It was hot. And when he came in, I was close to the registration desk. And this is the retreat center I built. I designed it. And I fought for things there. Well, one of the things I fought for in my meditation retreat center, to have individual rooms, and every room had its own ensuite. So it was like a hotel, but small, not just with TV screens and stuff. But it was comfortable. And they said, that's going to be too expensive. But, because I was raising the funds for it, they had no option. They had to agree with me. It was very scary sometimes. I remember being in Sydney just giving a talk, and in those days it was like fax machines, and they faxed the latest bill from the builder. It was about $600,000. And I thought, wow, we can't afford that. I trusted the builder. Well, what do? You can't say we're not paying. So I got this little trick. I said, can I question that item and that item and that item? You're allowed to question items. And that just gave me time. Time to raise the rest of the money. They never knew that. Just the payments were a bit delayed. But there's one thing which, as a monk, I know, as a monk business, same with the nun business. Sometimes you can just, have these projects, and they're way more expensive than you think. They're more than you can afford. But people get inspired. And if it's an inspirational project, like Jhana Grow, I kind of know the money will come from somewhere. And it always does. People have a look. We've got an ensuite there. Anyone who comes there, oh yeah, I'm going to donate for that. It's not sort of asking people, it's inspiring them. And that's what usually works. So if ever you need a monastery, get the most beautiful place in Hong Kong and inspire people. Was that a good thing to say? Are you going to be in trouble, Gerald? No. Because, it's something like kind of faith or confidence. Even just buying a nun's monastery, that I went to the site a couple of hours early with another monk, Ajahn Chittapala, and the two of us, went to the very center of that land. There's no way we could afford it. We did some chanting. Some really heavy chanting. Because, you've heard me, I have faith in these heavenly beings. This is the first nuns' monastery in Australia for bhikkhunis. Come on, help. I know you're a heavenly being. Do you want to stay as a heavenly being for a long time, or you just want to go down to the animal realm or something? You better help us. And I remember that experience. It wasn't for sale, it was on auction. I remember just going there for 2 hours later, they started the auction. And when the auction started, our treasurer was there. And he said, look, with loans and borrowing from here and borrowing from there, our maximum, absolute maximum, was 600,000 Aussie dollars. That's the most we could achieve. Anything more than that, somebody will go to jail. And so we had a dear old Singaporean Buddhist. I don't mind mentioning his name, it was Eddie Koo. And Eddie was our bidder. And so he got very close. 550,000, do I hear 575? 575, do I hear 600? And Eddie put his hand up, 600,000. It was really exciting. I don't usually do exciting things as a monk. But then I started chanting again. Please, heavenly beings, shut the mouths of everybody else. Make sure they can't open them. And then another man I didn't know put his hand up, 625. We lost it. Eddie, 650. This is our bidder. And our treasurer was standing next to me. He started to go ballistic. Ajahn Brahm, stop him, shut him up. We can't do this. We haven't got that money. We have to make sure that we can afford anything we bid. Tell him to shut up. And then I said to our treasurer, have some confidence. Be a good Buddhist. He didn't really agree with me. But nevertheless, it was too late. And it passed at 650. We got it. And that was our first bhikkhuni monastery. We couldn't afford it, but we got it. And of course, once everybody found out, there's no way they would let me go to jail, so I had to keep on working. It all got paid off eventually. So sometimes, don't trust me with any money. That's why I can't receive any money. I just tell people, I don't even ask for anything. I just tell people what we're doing next, and people get inspired, and off we go. And it's a beautiful way of doing things. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Like I saw some photos. Someone's got this book. They didn't actually get it here. It was my 60th or 70th anniversary book. And they got some photos of me when I was really young. 60th, okay. Really young. When I was a baby in a pram. I don't know why my brother kept those pictures after my mother died. And he gave them to us. You see me in Egypt, visiting the pyramids. If you see that photo, you soon find out which one is me. You can just, in the middle, you can see a little face, and then this big hair all around. Where my fuzzy hair stopped, that's where my beard started. It was called the donut look. And later on, that became my nickname, especially in Indonesia. My nickname in Indonesia is Ajahn Donut. You know why? For 3 reasons. First of all, a donut is round. A donut is sweet. And a donut is holy in the middle. That's what they call me, Ajahn Donut. And I don't mind that. It's just, I laugh with them. It's not offensive. It's like this light-heartedness, this friendliness that you would do to anybody in a family where everyone loves each other. So anyway, now where did I start this story off with? Uh, oh, yeah, this guy judging people. This guy was by the. Thank you. A lot of good karma saying that. this, I was by the reception area where people were signing in and getting their rooms and their keys. And this guy came up, and he was really Aussie guy, really big, and with fuzzy hair. He had tattoos all over him, and just a little singlet and shorts, and just sandals on. That's called Australian national dress. And when he came up, he looked so rough and so sort of badly dressed for a retreat. I couldn't help but saying, "Sir, have you got the right place? The prison is 6 kilometers up the road." It was really stupid. And he said, "No, no, I'm registered on this retreat. Here's my name." And I looked, he was registered. I'd never seen him before. But he came on that retreat. And after he did the interviews for everybody, and he was a star meditator. He came one day to the interview and he started telling me about, what he was doing in his meditation. And I couldn't believe it. He really did experience the jhanas. And he wasn't joking. And I said straight away, wow, that was a jhana. And there is a book written by Lee Brassington about meditation. And there he has a chapter on where to go if you think you have a jhana to make sure that they really are jhanas. And they have a list of these 5 meditation teachers. And they said, the number 5, they're pretty easy to say you've got a jhana. And the ones at the top, basically don't go to see them because they find so much fault. You really have to have a proper jhana to get approved by them. And number 2 was Pa Oxidor, a great Burmese meditation master. And number 1, top of the list, the hardest to get accreditation, was this monk called Ajahn Brahm. I was kind of, yay! So I don't tell people they have jhanas easily. You really have to, I look at you, question you, look at you many times to make sure that what you're saying is true. So anyway, when this guy came up, straight away, wow, that was a jhana, no doubt at all. The person I least expected. I didn't see him much afterwards. He went over to, I think, Queensland. But of course, I asked people and said, "No, how is he?" And apparently he tells them that experience changed his whole life. As it does. These aren't small experiences. These are huge. And they will change your whole life, always for the better. Never, ever, ever for the worse. That's why I teach like this. And that's why in between the funny stories and the jokes, I always insert these teachings of wisdom. And many of you don't realize why I tell the jokes and funny stories, to get you to be open. So those funny stories are like the bread, and in between is the beautiful filling, and then another piece of bread. As a Tibetan monk once said, he makes people laugh. So when they've got their mouth open, he can put in the pill of Dhamma. Thank you for listening. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So now we can have a break for 5-10 minutes. Is that okay? Okay. We didn't do much Q&A. Sorry, but you got questions in the back? Oh my goodness. Anyway, have a break for 5 or 10 minutes. Excellent. You never announced it, so no one knew where it was. That's very clever. I always have to be open for questions. So, so thank you so much. So have a break for 5 or 10 minutes. Anyone who's got a really, really, really important question can always come up and ask it now. But you can have a break, and after 5 or 10 minutes, please come back. We'll do the metta meditation and some chanting to conclude the retreat on a high note.
Simple. Does meditation help us to keep all the precepts?
Yes.
Because it's easy to break precepts.
Does meditation help you to keep all the precepts? The answer is yes. It's also to understand the precepts. That's how I kept precepts. I meditated first, and that made me sensitive. I never wanted to hurt anything, even little animals. I mentioned that I'm only talking, I said these stories before. You can go to the toilet. I don't want you to wet your pants during the metta meditation. So, once after my father died, my mother was so afraid of mice that I set a trap for a mouse and I killed it. I was about 16 at the time. And I still feel terrible about that. What did you do that for? It was actually to protect my mum. But then I had to take the little mouse. It was dead, but it was still warm. And it was so beautiful. I was stroking it like it was a pet. And I had to put it into the bin to be taken away. And I felt terrible about that. That's the last thing I ever killed. And so when you're really sensitive, you just can't do it. You're not trying to be perfect. You just can't. And the same with stealing. There's no way I want to take what's not mine because I know how much it hurts. If you lose some money because someone steals it. When I was training to be a school teacher, then one morning I just left, I think, some money in the milk bottle, for the milkman to pay him because I had to go into university. And then one of the people in the house stole that money. And I felt really terrible about that. And so you can never steal. And committing adultery, look, it's fun for a moment. It's attractive, you're breaking boundaries and people feel excited about doing that. But afterwards, you feel terrible. Why did I do that for? And please, any females, if your partner just, breaks that precepts and just sleep with somebody else, please talk to him. Don't just get rid of him straight away because it's like a temporary insanity. And after a while, it's much better staying with one partner rather than just many, even if you can afford them. And it gets very expensive and troublesome. And of course, lying. It's much nicer to tell the truth. You've got nothing to be afraid of. And also, I don't want to lie to you. I've known you for a while now. I don't want to sort of lie and say things which aren't true. If I do say something and you misunderstand it, please let me know. And I say, actually, that's not what I meant. This is what I meant. It was a joke. There never was a bear in the forest who was chasing a rabbit. That's just a funny story, that's all. And lastly, the alcohol. Sometimes you don't need to have alcohol or non-medicinal drugs. You get so much happier just being a pure-hearted person. And you don't need to be afraid of anything. People are so kind. And if you're honest to people, say, look, I've got an alcohol problem. They say, And sometimes people are so kind. There's this one guy in Thailand for the range retreat. He said he will not drink alcohol. He was an alcoholic, a really bad alcoholic, but he won't drink alcohol from sunrise to sunset for 3 months. And this man would have a bottle of whiskey next to him at night time. And he would drink and drink and drink. And he would always know when the sunrise was about to happen. And he'd finish off the bottle. and then he wouldn't drink. And in the evening, he'd have another bottle, waiting until that blooming sun went down. And he kept that vow. And we were all, I think all the monks in this monastery in Thailand, we all gave him special chanting. Well done. It was so hard for him, but it was a start. So whatever the precept is, just
Keep on meditating.
you keep on meditating and you don't need to break any precepts. They become natural.
Sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, excellent. I did tell Gerald earlier, was it Gerald? He said, I never gave any precepts here, but if you want to keep precepts, they're sometimes too hard to remember all of them. So please keep 2 precepts. What are the 2 precepts? These are the precepts which the Buddha gave his son, Rahula. Don't do anything, say anything, think anything which harms another living being. And don't do anything, say anything, think anything which harms yourself. Don't hurt anybody. And those are the 2 precepts which the Buddha gave Rahula, his son. That was his inheritance. Brilliant. And it makes sense. Who would want to hurt anybody?
How we can become softer?
You just look at yourself in the mirror every morning, 2 fingers and push up. You do become soft. Yeah, that's what I did when I honestly did that for 2 years without missing a day. And it worked. I enjoyed it. I learned how to smile. I wasn't always like this, but it kind of, when you smile, I get stuck and I can't configure my face otherwise. Sometimes people ask me, Ajahn Brahm, just for difference, can you please scowl? I can't do it. I can try, but it just, muscles just don't feel right. And then you become soft the way you look, and you look at yourself in the mirror, you're softer to yourself. Am I too soft? No. Some of the monks said I should be more strict. They said, do you really want me to be strict to you? No, not to me, to the other monk. Anyone else have a question while I'm just hanging out? Yeah.
You mentioned yesterday that we can use the word like peace or let it go.
Yeah.
If we would let sometimes the break things, actually, I noticed that the gap is actually pretty long.
Excellent.
So during the gap, should I just keep it silent or I contemplate the peace?
No. Keep it silent. You know, that they have this whole saying that silence is golden. And in all those years I've become a monk, the price of gold has increased enormously. It's even more important and valuable than it was when I first ordained 50 years ago. I say that because it's nice to appreciate silence. You don't need to fill it up. Just like I appreciate the space in this room. I said this the other night. You don't need to fill it up. The more space, the better. The more emptiness. Okay, yes. That's just the metta meditation and the blessing. Yes. Good. I have to know what you meant me to end. It's not my life. It was not an invitation. Ajahn Brahm, can you end it by 4 o'clock? Was it? Better not be. Okay, the lights. Does the lights affect anybody? No. I don't know why sometimes during meditation people think they have to dim the lights. I got my eyes closed and I can't see anything. whether it's lights on or off. And sometimes bright lights come in anyway, much brighter than this. So anyhow, okay. I think most people are here. Anyone not here? I thought one of you put your hand up. It was a joke. Okay. So what I will do, how many of you haven't heard my loving kindness meditation before? Only one or two. Okay, I'll just give a quick introduction to it. To spread loving kindness, the preparation is the most important. Just like I said with mindfulness of the breath, to actually encourage mindfulness as a priority, first of all, not just of the breath. And with loving kindness, the simile which I use is to light a fire. You have to get some substance which easily takes the flame. So you can get paper, dry paper, and then you put kindling on top, fine pieces of wood. And then you'd light a match, the wood starts burning, and soon that gets hot enough to start the kindling burning. And once the small twigs start burning, then you put on bigger pieces of wood, and that takes the flame. And then bigger pieces of wood, and then bigger pieces of wood. And eventually, you can put on these big, wet, sappy logs. There's enough heat in that fire to dry it out and burn everything. And I use that as a simile for meditation. Don't go, closing your eyes and thinking, this may my husband be happy and well. Don't use the sappy logs yet. No, it's nice. You've got a good relationship. But do the easy things first of all. And then gently, slowly, we build up to more and more difficult objects. And it's incredible. Once you've got a lot of loving kindness within you, it's amazing. You can put that loving kindness on any object. People may have hurt you, abused you, ex-husbands or whatever, politicians. And it dries that negativity out. You end up giving loving kindness to anybody. And almost last of all, the hardest object, you give it to yourself. It's so strong that it doesn't matter how much you resist, you find yourself bathing yourself with loving kindness. And it feels really nice. But you have to do the easy objects first of all. And the object which I usually choose, people know already, I love little cats, kittens. It could be a little dog. It could be a baby. This one lady in Sydney used a pot plant. Imagine a pot plant which she cared for and loved. And she gave it all this incredible loving kindness. So anyway, you'll soon hear about this in a moment. So first of all, please close your eyes. And with your eyes closed, first of all, bring attention to your body, your own body. You want to relax it first of all. We don't want to spend too much time on relaxing the body yet, but just make sure this, as you scan your body from your toes to your head, if you find any part of it which is not in a good position, and as I notice again, my right foot is squashed under my left leg, so I moved it. I look at my waist. I bring the waist in, and that straightens my back. That's how I like to meditate. You find out your best posture. I relax my shoulders, relax my arms. My digestive tract and stomach are really good today because I didn't eat much at lunch. That was a benefit. It's nice and empty and free. And I can't do much about my fingers because I'm holding a microphone. I'm used to this. It's comfortable enough. I check, body, is there anything I can do to make you more comfortable? And don't think I should bring down my bed and that will make it more comfortable. And sitting up, just those minor adjustments. Make sure my head is well balanced on top of the neck. And lastly, I really am aware of the muscles around my eyes, my nose and mouth. That just checks that out, that I'm not struggling too much. I relax those muscles. And when I relax them all, my whole body feels at ease. So I don't have to be concerned about it. Then you establish a bit of mindfulness inside of you. How peaceful are you? You'll find the cause of peacefulness is letting go of the past and the future. Later on, I might repeat that the best way of letting go of the past is being kind to all the participants of the past, including you. You forgive them all. Then it's easy to let go of the past and the fear of the future. Be kind to all the things which might happen in the future. And it's easy to let go of the future. And be kind to this present moment, how you feel, where you are. Don't judge yourself. Be kind to yourself. You made loads of progress. Well done. Use praise rather than criticism. And then, when you feel you're ready, you can imagine just walking down a street, a lane, alley, or anything here in Hong Kong or any other city of the world. And you hear a sound. And straight away, you recognize that sound. It's a little animal in distress. If you don't like cats, when I say cat, you say dog. Or a baby, or any other pet you have, or a favorite plant, but an imaginary object. Because the imaginary objects are very easy to develop loving kindness towards. So imagine this sound of a little cat meowing. And I follow that sound to its source. And I imagine in this dark corner of an old building, I can hear the sound coming from there. And as I get closer, I can see these two little eyes. They do belong to a cat. I don't know why its sound is so generates the understanding this cat is really asking, begging for some help. We're so scared to show its face. But I keep that eye contact. And eye contact is a wonderful way of sending loving kindness and trust. Dear little cat, I will never ever harm you or hurt you or exploit you. Dear little cat, I don't know why you're hiding in that darkness. Please give me the privilege of caring for you. I'm a monk, I don't have money, but I have lots of milk which people give me. Lots of fish. I can take the batter off if it's fish and chips and just give you the fish. I care for you, little cat. I really do. And I spread these feelings, which I make words about to this little cat. And then the little cat, I can see it poking its head out. Those words, not just the words, but where they come from. And this feeling of loving kindness, which I spread out to this little being. It perceives. It feels, who knows, maybe this person I can trust. As it comes out tinily, just inch by inch, you can see it's a little kitten, probably abandoned at birth or just after. You know, kittens and cats, their fur is always so clean. This poor little kitten, the fur is matted and dirty, and I can see why. There's scabs of blood on it, cuts. That poor little kitten has trusted others, and they've just hurt it, and the little kitten had to run for its life, and now it's hiding, terrified of another being, but also terrified of being alone. So it takes all my loving kindness. Dear little kitten, I will never ever harm you. I have already opened the door of my heart to you, no matter what you look like, no matter how much you cost. Please, little kitten, let me care for you. I see this little kitten coming out a bit further. My words are working, they're true, they're sincere. You know what it's like to be hungry? Know what it's like, to be scared of other people. They might hurt you, beat you. I will never do that. So with these words, it's like convincing this little cat, these are human words, but the meaning behind them is conveyed through my eyes and my body language. That a little cat understands. I look at its fur, its skin. It just needs so much care and kindness and allowing all those wounds to heal. But those wounds can't heal until that cat really trusts people. And I have to be that person. And I put my hand out slightly. I move it so slowly. I know if I move that hand fast, that kid will run away and probably die, hungry, thirsty, alone. So I do it so slowly. And that cat allows me. It kind of senses that this human being is not going to harm it. And it allows me to put my hand under its belly so I can lift it up You call it a belly. It's just like bones covered with fur. There's hardly any muscle on that kitten at all. It must be so hungry. But it allows me to pick it up so gently. And I make sure I keep focusing in my imagination, my eyes on its eyes, to make sure it really does trust me. I can convince it of the truth that I will never ever harm it. I pick it up and very slowly move it to my chest. I move it there because as I am imagining loving kindness towards this poor, helpless, suffering being, the center of my loving kindness always seems to be my heart area. And even as I'm saying this, I can feel the skin above my chest start to tingle. It's loving kindness being generated. And it goes through my body onto that skin. And right next to that skin, that's where I put the little kitten. I bathe it with loving kindness, spreading from my heart into this poor being who needs it so much. Yes, its wounds do need healing. It needs cleaning, feeding. But at this moment, I sense that what this little kitten needs most of all is a feeling of safety, of care, kindness, the cleaning, the healing, the feeding, giving it a nice safe place to sleep whenever it wants. That will come later. But I promise you, little kitten, I will always care for you. If you do something wrong, it doesn't matter. I'll always remember the beautiful times we shared together. You're allowed to make mistakes. You're growing in this world. Don't ever need to feel afraid or that I will ever punish you or scold you, little kitten. My strength, my power is to protect you, never to hurt you. And as I'm holding this kitten and spreading this loving kindness with my words and with this feeling of, I call it rays of golden light coming from my heart region, going right into this body of this poor young being, abandoned, alone, desperate. You've now found your friend. And I feel as I bathe this little kitten with loving kindness, these golden rays of light from its tail to the tip of its nose, to the end of every whisker, to the top of its ears and down to the paws of its 4 little feet. Dear little kitten, I care for you. And this little kitten realizes that. It closes its eyes and it rests in my arms next to my chest. And I even imagine it purring, probably for the first time in its life. And as I give all this loving kindness to the small being, I feel my heart region get stronger and stronger with the physical manifestation of the emotion of selfless kindness. And when that selfless kindness, that loving kindness, is strong enough, I change the image. And now in front of me, I imagine a dear friend, someone I've known for such a long time. And I imagine that being in front of me wherever they are in the world. Dear friend, loved one, family member, you always tend to get on with so easily. You too have been hurt in life, have been wounded. It's not your fault. But nevertheless, life can be so hard sometimes, so cruel. That's why I'm here. I'm here to heal. I'm here to remind you of your goodness, your purity. You're my friend. The door of my heart will always be open to you, no matter what you get up to. I care for you. And this is your best friend, a human being. And allow those rays of golden light to go right into that being. Go into their heart region. Up, up, up to their neck and down their arms to every finger. Further up their neck to their head. So can you imagine them smiling? Not the smile of I don't know, having had a good meal. The smile of kindness and love of meeting one of their best friends in the whole world. And let that loving kindness energy go down to all those organs in their body which are so easily hurt, infected, or have tumors or whatever. Go right down through their whole body, down to the tips of their toes, down to each finger, healing them, taking away their fear, their resentment, their jealousy, whatever it is which hurts. The door of my heart is open so much. I really care for you. And as you spread this loving kindness towards them, imagine their reaction at peace, happy. They realize that someone unconditionally loves them, not in the way of trying to own them, but just giving it selflessly, unconditional loving kindness. And the more unconditional it is, the more the area around your chest, above your heart, starts to tingle more and more and more. You're feeling its manifestation on your own body. And now, without opening your eyes, you imagine all the people in this room, all the people you've been sharing these 3 or 4 days with. People you may know, people you may not know. You imagine that they are so little difference between you and them. They need rest. They need kindness. They need forgiveness. They need recognizing their wonderful qualities. And to do that, you spread these rays of loving kindness from your own heart into theirs. And from them it goes to others in this room. And from them it comes into me and goes to Gerald and goes to everybody. We actually connect for these few moments. Not competing, but cooperating, giving. May each one of you, everyone in this room, be healthy, be rested, taste the bliss of these deep meditations. See these glorious lights of nimittas. Be enlightened and free from all fear and worry forever. You wish each one in this room the very, very, very best you could possibly imagine. And as you're sharing, you're also receiving. And you start to feel good. I'm receiving so much loving kindness from each one of you. And the more I receive, the more I share and give to each one of you. Each one of you, may any tightness, any pain, any memories of being hurt be softened. And afterwards you feel so beautiful. So you're really free. And then, if this loving kindness is strong, the walls of this room can't contain it. It goes outside to all the workers in this hotel, the ones who've cleaned your rooms, who've made sure that you're safe, fed you, cared for you, the owners of this hotel, everyone. Will you all feel the loving kindness which was spreading out to you? This loving kindness, the more you give, the stronger it feels. And it goes to everybody. It doesn't matter what religion, race, gender, who are in this hotel. All the workers and the servants, everybody. Even all the animals, all the cockroaches, mice, ants, and the birds in the sky around this hotel. All beings. May you all receive my unconditional loving kindness. Wherever you are, may you be free from pain, free from fear, and live a beautiful, peaceful, happy life, however you express it. I imagine this golden light spreading to every floor of this hotel, down to the reception, the car park, up to the top floors, until even this hotel can't contain this energy. It spreads out, and I can imagine it spreading out to this side of the river, the city of Shatin, to people I've never met before, to the birds in the sky, even the worms in the ground, or the fish in the river. May all beings in this region, human, animal, even heavenly beings, spirits, may all beings know that I care for you, that we care for one another. May you all be free from fear and suffering, and allowing healing, peace, energy, happiness, and wisdom to arise as this loving kindness expands ever more, as it goes way past Shatin, over into Hong Kong, Kowloon, Lantau, over into the mainland. The mainland, a huge area of human beings, birds and animals, and little beings in the earth, fish in the sea, crabs. May all beings in this great land of China, including Hong Kong, may all beings feel the loving kindness which I'm giving them, which we're giving them. May their anger vanish. May their fear disappear. May they feel so much peace and love coming from them. They did not know where to make them more peaceful and joyful human beings. Anyone who has argued with their loved ones, forgive them. We're all learning and growing and becoming better human beings day by day. May all you feel this rays of loving kindness like a blanket expanding over the whole of China, expanding further over to Russia, Japan, down south to North and South Korea, down further south to Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, Malaysia, Burma. May all beings in East and Southeast Asia be happy and well and realize by helping one another, that's where the happiness increases mostly. And then you go further to India, to the western parts of Russia, to India, further down south to the great islands of Indonesia and Australia and New Zealand, of course. Imagine this blanket becoming irresistible, going right over Europe, especially over Ukraine, Russia, Israel and Gaza. May all beings be at peace, be brothers and sisters in the Dhamma, in love, be kind. All animals and birds and beings in the earth. As it goes over Europe and Africa, over to the United States, north to Canada, south to Central and South America, and any other place which I missed out. May all beings, not just human beings, all beings in the whole world be happy and well. Just like that little kitten, they've been wounded and hurt and lost hope, afraid. Please come out of those little corners and accept each other's love and forgiveness. And just pause there for a moment. How does it feel? And then remember you've missed out one person. That person is the one who bears your name. So I was giving love to everybody. I never gave it to my own body and mind. So imagine, just imagine, still with your eyes closed, you can imagine an image of yourself, like a photograph or looking in the mirror. This little being who you've grown up with. How much have you been through in your life so far? So many disappointments and pain, receiving sometimes hatred and threats. You've been hurt so many times. Imagine looking yourself in the mirror and putting these imaginary arms out around yourself, protecting yourself, caring for yourself, stating that I will have this wonderful unconditional love towards this person who bears my name. No matter what mistake I make, I will learn from that. That's life. We make mistakes. That's the only way we can learn. We grow. When we're exposed to viruses and bacteria, that's where our immunity grows. when we're exposed to suffering, that's where our wisdom and kindness, compassion can grow. I know what it feels like. That's why I care. And imagine bathing yourself from the furthest toe to the topmost hair in your head, all over, in and out, up and down, backwards and forwards, not missing any part of your own body, which bears the memories of your life. May I be happy and well. May I. I'm not going to put any pressure on me ever again. I don't need to achieve things to feel happy about myself. I grant myself unconditional love. The door of my own heart will always be open to me to allow this beautiful energy, mostly from you, but also from so many other beings like me, pouring into you. And it never fills you up. There's always opportunity to accept more and more unconditional love. And now, how do you feel? Unconditional love means no judgment, just beautiful acceptance and warmth. Like I would care for that injured little kitten, no matter how much it smells, no matter how much those wounds are just so hard to heal. I will do it. I will spend the time. And then you spread this loving kindness over the whole universe, including yourself. Now, this blanket of warmth you spread over the whole planet Earth. It even goes to the plants in the ground. Imagine retracting it, bringing it inwards, keeping the warmth out there, but the light bringing it in. Allow it to come back into China, come back into the territory of Hong Kong, come back into Sha Tin as it shrinks. The warmth stays where it was, out, covering the whole world. And this light eventually comes into this room, into the Marriott Courtyard Hotel. As it comes into your body, into each one of us, our body, and comes into your heart region. And it's so concentrated now. This little ball of intense, beautiful, I always call it golden light. And it's just hovering there above your heart region, inside. I imagine my heart like this open, pure, fragrant white lotus. This golden light hovering above. And slowly, the petals of that white lotus close to protect and keep that beautiful light of loving kindness. And when it's closed, it's to be kept, to be used at the next time. How do you feel? Don't say, just know. Keep your eyes closed as I give the final blessing for you. And for me too, for all beings. Sabha Vidnimuto Sabasantapawajito Sabaviramati Gando Niputo Chatuang Bawa Sabitio Viva Chantu Sabarogo Vinasatu Mate Bhavan Vantarayo Sukiti Gayugo Bhava Apiwa Danhasilit Nichang Utapachalino Chataro Dhammawatanti Ayuano Sukhang Balang. May you all be happy, well, healthy, and really deep, peaceful meditation. The retreat is now over. And thank you for all the loving kindness you sent to me.